On camera, she laughed while she badgered her staff. And so all good things must end. And also the Ellen DeGeneres Show. Yes, the 83-year-old entertainer just announced that the upcoming 19th season of her show will be its last. Apparently, she created a workplace more toxic than an Amazon warehouse in Chernobyl. Countless allegations surfaced last summer that the show's work environment was rife with harassment and discrimination. Following those charges, Ellen's ratings dropped faster than Kevin Spacey's pants at a boy band pool party.
How did television's so-called queen of be kind become the boss no one could stand in the same room? Imagine a world where daytime talk shows reigned supreme, where a platinum-haired host in sneakers gave away cars, encouraged dancing, and built an empire around sunshine and rainbows. That empire belonged to Ellen DeGeneres, yet behind the carefully curated studio smile, a darker drama played out.
Led to article after article of people being like, Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person. And all these staffers started to come out, not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said, you were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls of that show. If you saw her, this is not a nice person. So she eventually got canceled, but now she's coming back. She's got a Netflix special. That's the right response.
Interns in tears, staffers dodging eye contact, and whispered HR memos. Then two unexpected names decided to pull back the curtain. Megyn Kelly, the former Fox News anchor turned podcast crusader, sharpened her words like a scalpel. Greg Gutfeld, the late-night provocateur, arrived with a flamethrower of sarcasm. Together, they tore through Ellen's kindness brand, forcing Hollywood to confront a truth no one wanted to acknowledge.
It was just the excuse. She is, Emily, I watched her comedy special. It was like a huge pity party. It was about how she was lamenting how her reputation has suffered. She's essentially as popular as a pit bull with monkeypox. But she's putting this on Trump. Do you think that she's going to be, just everybody's going to love her in England?
Stick around, because what happens next still shocks even the most dyed-in-the-wool daytime TV fans. From the moment Ellen DeGeneres stepped onto the set in 2003, it felt like magic. Her easy grin, the carefree dance, and those giveaways, let's make somebody's day, became more than a tagline. They were the essence of a cultural phenomenon.
Because I'm seeing this week that there is an attempted comeback by somebody who did not cross one of those fateful lines of the misstepping on their sacred cows of gender or race or sexuality.
Yeah.
But she was said to be a nasty biatch, and that's Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
So her show got canceled after she had this testy exchange with Dakota Johnson, where something happened where Dakota said, I had this birthday party, and Ellen said, well, why didn't you invite me? You didn't invite me. And she said, no, I did invite you, Ellen. That's not what happened. And Ellen had blown her off. And then tried to play the victim on the set with her. Anyway, it led to article after article of people being like, Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person.
By 2020, the Ellen DeGeneres Show had scored 19 seasons, amassed over 60 Emmys, and boasted a roster of A-list guests. No celebrity resisted her invitation to dance. No audience left without a tissue or a laugh. Advertisers paid top dollar. Critics praised her brand of affable kindness. But somewhere beneath the glossy exterior, trouble was bubbling. It began with a series of anonymous posts and hushed rumors. So
Ellen and her wife, Portia, have left their millionaire haven of Montecito for England. Now, they're saying they'll never come back in the wake of Trump's win. Do you think that's the reason why she's leaving?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, Ellen got canceled for real a few years ago from just being a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like a single comment she said or something she did. Just lots of people saying that working for her was a living nightmare and that she's a jerk.
There's tension in the green room. One message read, interns are crying in corridors. Overworked producers whispered about Operation Smile, an internal memo supposedly instructing crew members to maintain forced enthusiasm at all costs. By late 2019, more concrete allegations surfaced. Harassment, discrimination, a no eye contact rule. So strict staffers felt they were tiptoeing around a queen. And then the ratings started to nosedive.
And I think also to admit your mistakes.
Of all people on earth to be feeling sorry for herself, Ellen DeGeneres should not be on the list.
She should at least, but make a real apology and do it.
There's no apology. It's just woe is me. I was run out of Hollywood as she speaks from this grandiose stage on Netflix. Hello, you haven't been canceled if you are doing a Netflix special. She got $20 million for the one before this. I'm sure she's fine.
From 2019 into early 2020, viewership dropped nearly 43%. Once adoring audiences turned restless. Advertisers grew jittery. Suddenly, Ellen's empire studied its own reflection and recoiled. Yet for many viewers, the off-camera drama felt almost impossible to reconcile with the woman they'd seen hugging blind fans, presenting oversized checks to charity, and dancing on stage in spectacles of joy. How could someone who preached "be kind" be accused of cruelty behind closed doors?
Ellen told the Today Show, home of Matt Lauer, that the bad press actually had nothing to do with her decision. Right, and the Titanic didn't hit an iceberg. It chose to sink.
If it was why I was quitting, I would have not come back this year. I really did think about not coming back because it did, it was devastating. I am a kind person. I am a person who likes to make people happy.
No, the real reason, she says, is it was just too easy. Telling the Hollywood Reporter, quote, "When you're a creative person, you constantly need to be challenged. And as great as this show is, and as fun as it is, it's just not a challenge anymore." Well, if that's true, here's an idea. When your viewership is down 43%, why not consider that the challenge?
That contradiction made the story irresistible. While trade publications cautiously reported on internal memos, two high-profile media figures refused to tread lightly. Megyn Kelly arrived armed with damning questions about selective outrage. Gutfeld followed with a savage comedic roast that painted Ellen as a smiling animatronic whose backstage aura resembled a dystopian boot camp. Together, they weaponized every rumor, report, and complaint to force a reckoning nobody saw coming. There's a reason Ellen's show built its reputation on kindness. It was simple to sell. In a time when cable news felt like a cage fight, daytime television embraced feel-good stories and viral-worthy moments. Ellen became a brand, almost a mascot for positivity, with her memoirish comeback after hardship, her fellowship with Oprah's network, and the facade of progressive values. But all the glitter and goodwill couldn't mask the fact that by 2020, staffers were describing the culture behind the cameras as toxic.
I'm gonna let her back in, Rob, because she's a lesbian, she's a leftist, and she didn't hit one of their sacred cows. Nastiness, that's their bread and butter.
Well, I think everyone... I will say, like, the resentment, I think everyone should have a chance for reconciliation. I don't think Jesus exempted anybody. And so I do, while it does, because I have been allowed back in, but I don't hold any grievance and resentment. It's very important. And I would just say for Ellen, the resentment, you have to get over resentment to whatever addiction or addictive qualities happen. To get over it, you have to deal with resentment and address it, and then otherwise you're going to fall back into the same path.
Rumors suggest interns were instructed never to speak unless spoken to, and certain employees claimed that attempting eye contact with Ellen could land you in HR's crosshairs. You could feel the tension in every hallway, one former producer whispered to an entertainment outlet. People danced on camera, but off camera they limped. That dichotomy, public warmth and private frost, would become the nucleus of a scandal. When BuzzFeed and other outlets began publishing exposés, it wasn't just about petty meanness. It was about a fundamental breach, a world-famous host preaching empathy while allegedly cultivating fear. Inside sources alleged that complaints of racial microaggressions went unchecked. They described vibe checks that Ellen skipped while assistants scrambled to produce glossy moments. By the time the Washington Post ran a two-part deep dive on the empire of kindness, the ratings slump had reached the ears of network executives. With each new story, Ellen's brand crumbled like sugar under heat. Yet it wasn't until Megyn Kelly spoke up that the subject went from swirling gossip to national conversation.
Oh, she was like, well, that's my time. Later, Marks, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then just leave them behind to go.
Yeah, they don't have the choice. They must stay in the hell of Trump. We're out of here. By the way, Walter.
I think we could let the illegal aliens stay if we get enough of Hollywood to self-deport.
Yes. I will take 1,000.
You know, exactly.
I'll take 1,000 Venezuelan migrants for one
Exactly.
share.
Exactly.
On her podcast in early 2020, Kelly delivered a scathing monologue. She didn't just rehash the rumors. She held up a mirror to the media's double standard. If a conservative talk show host had 10% of the complaints Ellen's facing, they'd be dragged before a congressional inquiry. Kelly declared. Her words cut deep because she wasn't an Ellen hater by default. She was a former network anchor known for sparring with celebrities and politicians alike. When Kelly showed up on that podcast stage with documented accounts, a few key quotes, anecdotes of sobbing interns, HR attorneys rushing to settle, it felt like the perfect storm. She called it the Hollywood protection racket. She pointed out that liberal outlets had lauded Ellen's comeback for years, refusing to scrutinize workplace complaints simply because it fitted a feel-good narrative. Kelly's takedown was precise. She contrasted the fanfare that followed Ellen's public apologies with the deafening silence that accompanied behind-the-scenes allegations. We treat celebrities as infallible as long as they check the right boxes on race, gender, or political views, Kelly explained. That's not accountability. That's a cloak of immunity. In one pointed moment, she recounted a producer's claim that Ellen stopped making eye contact once she became a star, an anecdote that resonated because it distilled a culture of fear into a single image. A boss so unapproachable that mere eye contact felt forbidden.
If Trump is truly responsible for Ellen's exodus, shouldn't that go down as his greatest achievement in the last 8? I mean, he should get the Nobel Prize.
He's literally going to have a who's who of left. I mean, the entire 80s music catalog is gone. You got Springsteen, Cher, Madonna. I just don't know why they keep showing pictures of Aaron Rodgers with blonde hair.
Kelly's comments went viral. Clips of her podcast snippets circulated on Twitter and TikTok. Suddenly, Ellen's smiling empire had a gaping fissure at its core. But if Kelly waged a surgical strike, Greg Gutfeld arrived with a weaponized roast. On his Fox late-night show, Gutfeld opened with Ellen DeGeneres, daytime's malfunctioning animatronic, smile on cue, terror backstage. That punch landed like a Molotov cocktail. He rounded up every rumor. HR payoffs, interns in tears, the no-look policy, splicing them into a rapid-fire riff that painted a picture of a yoga studio run by Satan's intern. His delivery was equal parts sarcastic and gleeful. If Willy Wonka ran his chocolate factory like Ellen ran her show, the Oompa Loompa would have unionized by season 3. The audience roared. Gutfeld also teased a fictional spin-off, a surreal Ellen reboot, where staffers wore hard hats, communicated only via post-it notes, and danced at mandatory HR briefings. That absurd vision cut through the noise, turning horror whispers into comedic gold. Clips of his monologue exploded online, spawning memes. Clips of a smiling Ellen superimposed over a dystopian factory, green lights flashing, robotic laughter echoing. TikTok users remixed Gutfeld's lines into comedy sketches. Reddit threads overflowed with side-by-side images of Happy Ellen versus backstage horror. Even mainstream late-night hosts referenced Gutfeld's take, signaling that the story had broken into the cultural mainstream. By the time Gutfeld finished, the narrative had shifted irrevocably. No longer was it just gossip. It was a full-blown cultural moment. Megyn Kelly offered the scalpel, cutting precision, clinical dissection. Greg Gutfeld brought the flamethrower, burning everything to ash for public spectacle. Together, they forced an industry that once politely ignored behind-the-scenes rumors to reckon with a dissonance so stark it felt surreal. Amid the fallout, Ellen tried a countermove, a Netflix redemption special titled, Actually, I'm Still Grateful. Reports claimed Netflix paid her a $20 million deal. In the trailer, a solemn Ellen sat on a minimalist stage, voice trembling as she lamented how her reputation never recovered from the 2020 storm. She framed it as a victim's journey. "I just wanted to keep making people laugh," she said, "but somehow my kindness was weaponized against me." That plea had echoes of a public apology, an attempt to shift sympathy back her way. Simultaneously, tabloids began speculating that she and her wife, actress Portia de Rossi, were scouting a permanent move to the United Kingdom. Sources close to the couple suggested Ellen might never return to the States, citing looser paparazzi laws and friendlier press in London and Manchester. She's eyeing a fresh start, one insider told a gossip magazine. The UK's press culture is less punishing, but skeptics asked, was this more PR spin than truth? After all, Ellen's network of friends and career roots ran deep in LA. A move abroad felt like admitting defeat, an acknowledgement that the brand was tarnished beyond repair. Yet the Netflix special vaulted back into the conversation, bringing flashbacks of 2017's "I'd like to apologize to Channing Tatum" bit. Except this time, the jokes were gone. The audience that once danced to her tunes now watched with arms crossed. Social media response ranged from lukewarm support, "She seems sincere," to scathing dismissal, "She's a millionaire crying on camera." Ellen's attempt to reframe the narrative barely stuck. Instead, it reignited memories of every negative headline. Where once fans sought out her next episode, now they scrolled past, unbothered or downright hostile. That tension between celebrity forgiveness and public skepticism underscored a larger truth: Hollywood's double standard. If Ellen had been a conservative talk show host, Kelly had argued, she'd be canceled at the first murmur of trouble. Yet, as long as she delivered car giveaways and danced with Justin Bieber, critics looked away. Meanwhile, lesser-known hosts had been forced off the air for far less. Consider James Corden, whose restaurant apology tour prompted widespread mockery but no long-term fallout, or Cheryl Underwood, who faced internal complaints and yet maintained her seat alongside Whoopi Goldberg on daytime TV. The point wasn't that all controversies share equal weight, but that some celebrities enjoyed an immunity cloak based on their perceived good brand. Even in the aftermath of Ellen's exit in 2022, the question lingered: why did it take two media firebrands to break a story that hundreds of insiders allegedly knew about for years? That question gnawed at viewers who noticed a pattern. When certain stars stumbled, they got a slap on the wrist. When others made missteps, the social media mob was ready with torches. In Ellen's case, political alignment, her outspoken support of progressive causes, had shielded her. But once the tide turned, the same "be kind" message felt hollow. As one culture critic put it, kindness isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. The final season of the Ellen DeGeneres Show in 2022 played out like a slow-motion unraveling. Instead of triumphant finales, there were awkward cameos, celebrities showing up more out of obligation than genuine support. The canned applause for Ellen's sign-off felt half-hearted. Social media metrics revealed that viewership for the finale was down 38% from the year prior. Contrast that to Oprah's farewell tour, which still drew record-breaking numbers. Suddenly, Ellen's legacy moment felt more like a cautionary tale. Backstage, insiders said, some staffers breathed sighs of relief, others wept for the jobs and trust they felt were betrayed. Ellen's final words, delivered through tears and halting voice, were meant to signal gratitude. "I love you all, and I always will." But the audience reaction was split. Some cheered, others tweeted cynically, "Finally, peace," while fans of Kelly and Gutfeld triumphantly reposted Gutfeld sleeping at the switch jokes. It wasn't a bang, more a pleated deflation. Despite 19 seasons of forced grins and viral moments, Ellen's brand couldn't withstand the evidence of a toxic workplace. Instead of a victorious exit, it was a humbling fade to black. Once daytime royalty dissolved into the same anonymity many hosts face when they outlive their ratings. Ellen's legacy, for better or worse, would be inextricably tied to that moment when her be kind mantra rang hollow. Ellen DeGeneres didn't fall because she danced too much. She fell because the kindness she sold was a brand, not a promise. Megyn Kelly reminded us that media favors certain stars until they become inconvenient. Gutfeld showed us that satire can expose cruelty disguised as cheer. Together, they forced Hollywood to admit what crew members and insiders had whispered for years. Smiling on camera doesn't guarantee a soft heart off camera. So where does Ellen go from here? Maybe she'll find solace in a London townhouse far from LA tabloids. Maybe she'll cork up a new special and hope we forget. But one truth remains. When Be Kind becomes a tagline rather than a practice, audiences grow wise, and the applause stops. So here's the final thought. In a world where kindness is often marketed, the most powerful currency is authenticity. Because once you realize that smiling millionaires can be monsters in disguise, you start measuring worth not by giveaways, but by genuine action. And if that means blocking out a host's dance routine with memories of tearful interns, well, that's the price of truth. Keep your eyes open, keep asking questions, and don't let any empire of positivity distract you from what's really happening behind the scenes. And don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the notification bell if you found this breakdown eye-opening. Trust me, what's coming next will blow your mind. This is Sasha Spills signing off. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.